Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to John Riggio, extraordinaire, pro tennis player, architect, you name it, he does it. Joining us live today here again to talk more about his career and, of course, the amazing stories he has with his sponsorships, the people he knows, the work, the life he lives. John Riggio, welcome back. How are you today?
Hi, how are you, Jill?
I'm doing great, sweetheart. Please say hello to everyone and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Yes, hi, my name is John Riggio. I usually talk about my architect work and my profession, but I also have a lot of stories from years ago when I was a tennis pro. And my tennis stories is still continuing on from last week. I have even more stories. I had to remember them. They were so many years ago. And really from leaving off with my last sponsor with Miss Leona Helmsley. What happened there was I had to remember how many matches and how many tournaments I won, and I started to get into remembering some numbers. So what happened is I already explained that my previous sponsor that was still on, that was led by Reebok, and the new sponsor, Miss Leona Helmsley, they were able to agree on uh, like a lease deal where they pay per month and it would slowly raise up the value of my contract. And what happened is, as usual, I started to win a lot of matches there. So in 1996, 28 years old,
Wow.
I'm still playing really good again. I'm winning a lot of tournaments and they're making money.
God bless.
And
Hold on, just quickly, when did you start playing tennis? How old were you, by the way? I don't remember.
well, my first sponsorship started when I was just 9 years old.
Wow. Wow. Okay, go ahead. Continue. Sorry to interrupt.
And yes, so what happened is, so at the age of 29, winning tournaments and they're making a lot of money. My sponsors are able to generate a lot of money. And what happens is Reebok, they wanted the percentage of the winnings. So what happened is this ended up going to my lawyer, Priscilla Clinton, and it turns out they ended up having to pay into the contract some more money, and it ended up they had to add $20 million into the contract. So my contract value did go up to 140 million. I think potentially at that time they were sort of thinking about some kind of number of it might go up to 180 million dollars, depending on how long this playing was going to continue on. So what happened is, unfortunately, in January of 1997, Mr. Harry Helmsley, he died.
Oh,
And to keep my playing going, they were allowed to have one person from the tennis center watch my matches. So they had Ms. Vanderbilt was able to help out, the supervisor there was able to help out, and there was only a certain number of tournaments they were allowing me to play, and they could then have to switch to the next person until Ms. Leona Helmsley would to return.
yeah.
Some of the matches were even watched by Anderson Cooper, which is Glory Vanderbilt's son. And in fact, I was remembering the past. In fact, Anderson Cooper, I knew him as a childhood friend. He was in my fifth grade class. Because where I lived, the school district was very good and was very exclusive in some areas. So he was there in my school, and he was able to see the whole thing with the gymnastics, where I did excellent with the gymnastics and the Olympic Star program. And that year, I was even elected as the student
Wow.
slash president. He was there to see that, and I was doing very good. I was well liked. And so that was what was happening. Now he's there. He's watching some of the tournaments. He was able to watch some of the tournaments. So that was really good. I think I was able to win another 5 tournaments and then move to the next person. Now what happened is
Wow.
the Miss Helmsley, since they had to settle the will, it was very serious.
Uh,
She wasn't in control of my contract anymore. With the will, it went to the family
Crazy. Yeah.
Mr. Humphrey. he was not in control. She was not in control of the contract anymore. So
Okay.
what happened is there was a big uproar amongst the people there at the tennis center
Sure.
because I was winning a lot of matches. They were generating money. And they didn't know why things would have to stop for me again. There was no real reason. So what happened is one of the relatives of Mr. Helmsley, he had to come over to the tennis center, and I talked to him. Initially, he said they were going to put my contract up for $180 million, put it on sale.
Wow.
And with this, what happened is I had to stop playing after they ran out of people to watch my matches.
Hmm.
I went back home, same thing. I had to wait. But on this one, I did get a phone call, and I returned to the tennis center, and they did have a prospective buyer. It was Mr. Kellogg, the Kellogg cereal company.
I know that. Yeah.
So Mr. Kellogg was
Excuse me.
there, the young Mr. Helmsley was there, and I talked to them. And I think as far as this was just like a little piece of the end of my tennis playing. I continued to play some more matches, some more tournaments. And I think the little time off and everything, the same thing starts to happen where I have to get back into really playing sharp again, starting to win. And it did start to happen. I think, but what happened there is the same story. I think the Kellogg's know I think I turned 30 years old at this
Wow.
point. This is in 1997, fall of 1997. My birthday's in September. I think I did turn 30 years old, but I'm still winning matches. And I think for some reason at that point, the plane stopped. I think they didn't want to pay them $180 million. And the same story was happening where they had to share the profits with the Reebok, Adidas, and Mitsubishi. And that's what was happening. So at that time, the story isn't that much different because by the end of the year, going into 1998, my playing did stop. I think they sort of hoped that my playing would continue into 1998, but it seems like it wasn't able to. And I think that was just about it. I think they had some ideas of maybe starting to coach some players, something like that later on, a few years after
Wow.
that. And I think that was the end of the plane. So what was also happening was so at the time I ended up winning more than 20 tournaments. I think originally I was just remembering past what kind of numbers, and the tournaments were pretty good. And obviously they were very profitable. And so what happened there was I also remember very interesting who the player was that I played. For one, when I came back to playing there with Miss Leona Helmsley, there was the first game that was a complete disaster that was canceled, although I won the match. And then the second match I played and I did lose the match, and it was against someone I already knew. I just had to remember.
Wow.
His name was Jonas Svensson, originally from Sweden. And then I sharpened my game up, and just like a couple of weeks later, I was able to win the match. I also played him again that same year in 1996, and I played him in another tournament. He made the final match of the tournament. I played him in the final match, and I won the match. I won the tournament. He is the same player that I played in the final match for the Fisher Open.
Wow.
His, so Richard Branson was there, and my girlfriend Delilah was there, and he was there, Mr. Swenson, and he also had his sponsor there. And the sponsor was pretty nice. I think they liked my name there. The name was John Riggio at that time. And they liked my girlfriend there. They saw them there. And I think one interesting thing about that match was like when I start the match, I always used to point at the court where I'm going to serve the ball
Wow.
because I had an
Hmm.
amazing serve. And usually that first serve, I tried to ace my opponent. And so I really served that, and that was really amazing. That really made the crowd have such a like a cheer in the crowd when they saw me point, and I did amazing
Sure.
serve. And then I think in that match I was able to really serve, and like I could even win the whole game serving, and that was really so I think from playing there they sort of wanted me to just play the points also. I also was able to play the points, beat him with passing shots and things like that. And this guy, Mr. Jonas Svensson, from Sweden, he was only like, I think, a couple years older than me. And he's turned out to be an excellent player. I just looked at his bio. I think some things about it, he was at least the 10th ranked player.
Wow.
And he was able to beat all those different other players that people read about that have a good ranking. And so he was able to play, and he played for the same number of years practically. I see he played as an adult player. I don't see anything about him playing if he was a junior pro at all, but I
Okay.
see as an adult player, he played sort of like that same kind of year around 1996 or something. And and then I see that also they moved over to Monte Carlo, Monaco. So
Ooh.
he's living in Monte Carlo, Monaco. I think that is like the new location for a lot of tennis players they had at the tennis center.
Ah.
I remember years ago, like going back to when I was even in high school, and I had some tennis instructors they assigned to me. Like they had Bjorn Borg, it was assigned to me, and he's there sitting on the court side, and he's telling me the same thing that they plan to move all the way to Monte Carlo to Monaco. So many years ago, they had planned this. So I think he's over there too. That's very interesting that he's playing over there.
Oh,
So that must be the new location for them to play some tennis. And so that's really interesting. So I think the tennis is still going on over there. And so I think that was really interesting. And I did remember playing him and everything. And yeah, so he had a pretty solid career. He was an excellent player. I mean, to get to that final, just in the Fisher match, he had to beat all those other players that were in that same US Open. And then years later, the tournaments we were playing were usually above the US Open. They were all higher level tournaments heading to the Eastern, Manhattan Open, and American Airlines Open. Those were the set of tournaments that we were playing there. So he was all playing in the upper tournaments. So he was a good, honest kid, honest player. So that was good. And I think he was happy to see me playing all the way in those years in 1996 that I was still playing and you know, able to come to my tennis court there.
wow.
I think one interesting thing during the years in 1996 and 1997 was also some sad things were going on at home.
Yeah.
Delilah, even though she passed on, there was still
That's his
some,
ex-girlfriend for those new timers. Yep.
those were some things going on because she was really with my tennis, rooting for my tennis, and always wanted to come to my tournaments and everything, and did come to my tournaments. And even though she had died, what happened is after the father was no longer alive, that he had died. She had friends in the mall there, in the Broadway Mall, and they decided to have her coffin removed, taken out of the
Wow.
ground, and relocated to another location. And they did do it. They even asked me for some money. I gave them some donation money. They relocated her coffin, gave her a new gravestone all alone. So she
Wow.
wasn't with some kind of crazy story with her family anymore. They was really very important. I think a lot of people took her passing very hard. So that really is what happened. And then also what happened in the short time after that, my mother sort of really didn't act the same. My mother, who started off getting me that sponsorship at the local tennis center called SNS Sports with Patrick Mulroon as the owner,
Yep.
he told me that my mother really wasn't acting the same anymore, and that she might have been starting to pass on, that she's strangely not involved with my tennis. So that whole story was very strange. And I think after the lighter, then my mother was saying that she sort of lost her direction in life as a
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is she decided to go to Dianetics in Hicksville because she was just going to leave the earth. And so she came back, did the whole thing with the candles, the black robe and everything. But it seems like she wasn't successful. She just ended up waking up with like blurred vision. So I think that was really a strange thing that happened. So there was a lot of strange things going on at home too, with those things finally panning out and everything. And then I also said the story that from 1998 in March, I had my architect license and I started to work on just architect work at that point. And so I was busy with that, making new contacts, new girlfriends, things like that, and then ended up going with architect work and getting married with the architect work and things like that. And so that was what was happening. And so I think one interesting thing about this whole thing with tennis, I wasn't really remembering all of the numbers. And
Okay.
I think you're remembering the numbers from the last chapter there with Leona Helmsley and playing to the extended point there with Kellogg's looking at my thing. I must have won at least over 20 tournaments at that time. So that was
Wow.
pretty good. They gave me that extra 2 years of playing. There was little stops in between there, some wait times that were necessary. And I think in total, my total tournaments with a junior playing and as adult is coming to about 150 tournament wins, which was really amazing. I think my junior wins are approximately 40 tournament wins, and my adult tournaments are the balance, which is coming out to like 110 tournaments,
Oh
which
my
is a lot.
goodness.
And I think the total years is coming out to at least 16 years of uh, playing tournaments. There was those few years before that that I was initially sponsored, learning how to play and played my club, and which was really important to grow my tennis and learn how to improve and everything like that. And so I think starting off, I remembered I started my club and I was learning tennis, and I think
Okay.
my percentage was only maybe 50%.
Wow.
And from 50%, it slowly grew to 75%. That's because I was playing, and someone in my club was saying that if you have your own club, they wanted me to really also play even better. They want me to be like the best player who have my own club.
Yeah.
So I was really trying to learn how to play the tennis better. That involved going to the library, getting books on how to learn tennis, and I really started to improve the tennis playing. So from there, that was really good. And so my percentage slowly started to move up to 75%. And I think from that time of really playing a little better made a big difference. Because my coach, Anthony Cambria, back then, he noticed my playing and
Yeah.
started to move me up a little in who I'm playing. And she started to work in people that were outside of the school. I started playing people that were coming from like the National Tennis Center and things like that. So then at that point, he finally gave me a set of matches to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the test to see where, if I'm going to make the ITF level, if I'm going to make the ATP level.
Yeah.
I think at that time was very interesting. So going from a club player, 50%, 75%, trying to learn how to play, I really played those matches and really had to try hard. Like say you'd watch a movie and you see someone at some point really trying hard to really succeed, and then you see them come through to win. I really had to do that. And then from that point on, that same idea to really give that extra effort is really what made me play better and play to where I went past the ITF and played the ATP tennis. And I had to really take that same extra push to win, to concentrate so hard
Yeah.
to play and win those matches. And that is really how that same idea also went to winning tournaments. They could tell that I'm someone who was able to not only win matches, but I could come through and win the tournament at the end. And my percentage of winning was so high with winning tournaments. And when I got to the final match, the chance
Yeah.
of someone beating me was so low that that was one amazing thing. And that's why they even had me teaching other pros on how to win. They wanted the other pros to win tournaments. So I
Amazing.
think a lot of pros, they play tennis. If they can hold their level playing in the tour, they continue
Okay.
playing, but they not might not necessarily win any tournaments. Some players might not win tournaments. Some players win some tournaments. I notice a lot of pro players, their percentage of winning might only be around 50%. And
Mm-hmm.
my playing was way high. It went up all the way to like 96% playing matches. And then same thing with tournaments. I've lost very few tournaments. So especially the final match. If I would because sometimes when you're playing tournaments, they might ask you not to play the remainder of the tournament. Sometimes I was playing the tournament, and if by chance I didn't win a match, they might not give me a second game. I might not win the tournament, but it wasn't the final match. So
Mm-hmm.
when I came to the final match, the chances of me winning was so amazingly high. And that is because of that same idea of really concentrating and really
Then.
getting that extra push to win the match, not really thinking about anything. I think also like the things with playing tennis was the idea of taking the fall on a match or then people will resort to cheating is I would never do anything like that. As I played, they were
Mm-hmm.
saying always, if you're playing the pro match, you want to always try to win the match. And all those little jokes of trying to take the fall on the match and then they give you another gift somewhere else or something like that is never what I ever was doing. That whole thing, some people try to push that on players, and it always lead to their downfall, them being asked to leave, thinking that they were going to take the fall or things like that. And you could never do that. You always had to really win the match. And I think that maybe it hurts some people's feelings, things like that, and everything. But I think that's why you have to have really have strong sponsors. They
Got
were
it.
there to defend that whole thing.
How
Where
do you even get the sponsors? Like, who helps you with that? Did you go out all yourself always and do this?
no, in fact, I started off since I bent that first Prince racket when I was 9 years old. I was sponsored right away by Patrick Mulrooney at his pro shop. He could tell I could play pro tennis. Then
Okay.
the next sponsor also did the same thing when I had the
Wow.
tennis club. It turns out the tennis administrator in my junior senior high school, he was also working in the National Tennis Center involved with pro tennis. So when he came to me and told me, "Wow, you're playing so
Yeah.
amazing," he wants me to start playing some people from the National Tennis Center. I knew I had the ability already. So he also then picked me up, had me sign the contract with the National Tennis Center himself. And after that, the other sponsors they were also attached. Like Prince Racket was came to my pro shop. Then the next one, in fact, after that, I did have to make the phone calls.
Okay.
I did have to call because there was a little stoppage when I had my own court 33. I made the playing there. I was playing great, but they said they really needed someone to know how to work the pro tennis. And I
Got it.
called around and I was lucky to find Sir Richard Branson, who I knew as a neighborhood friend.
Amazing.
So, but then after that, the next sponsor was really, I did not have to call. My next sponsor that was led by Miss Gloria Vanderbilt, she in fact found me through tennis sport playing. I did not have to call them. So they bought my contract like that. And then after that, the same thing continued to happen. I did not have to call anybody. Uh, I think the only time I had a call again was when Reebok couldn't get me on the court. I called Dory Vanderbilt and she helped me out with the phone number there. And then I got back on with Leona Helmsley.
Wow.
Then like trying to get through the whole end story. I didn't have to call around. They found a prospective
Yeah.
buyer
That's
quite a little
awesome.
longer.
Just want to let you know we only have 2 minutes left, so we have to be on time today, unfortunately. How do we kind of want to wrap up and sum up for today? I mean, there's just still so much more we could talk about.
Yes, well, I think one thing as far as tennis, you go onto my Facebook page. It's a John Riggio pro tennis player, and I have all kinds of pictures. I have a link to a webpage that lists all kind of experiences from the very beginning, and all kinds of different facts and tournaments and things like that and photographs. And this was part of my architect profession. I'm at www.johnriggio.com. And that is really doing good. And yeah, so I think anyone watching, certainly they want to take a look at my architect work
Yeah,
sites,
will
see all the
do.
different things that we're working at. And sure, the tennis story is always enjoyable to listen to. And certainly you want to go there and you want to take a look at all the different names and pictures and things like that. So we really like it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you back. And as always, have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your day tomorrow, okay? And don't overeat
Thanks.
too
Yes, have a
much.
nice evening to you. Yes, thanks a lot. It's good talking to you.
You too, as always, John. Thanks so much. And to everyone, stay tuned. We'll be right back. And happy Thanksgiving. Lot to be grateful for. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.